Eric Cantona, Gianfranco Zola, Luis Suárez. None of them have as many Premier League goals as our next guest, Brian Deane. Welcome to the Sports Gazette.
Cool. I didn't know that. How you doing? You okay?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, not a bad life and career you've had. I'm really interested, particularly from your playing career, particularly the year at Benfica, and then you have managed in Norway. You have been an owner in Kosovo, and you've also played abroad in Australia. It wasn't really the done thing for English players to go abroad as much as it is. I mean, we see it all the time now in the Bundesliga in particular, and a few other leagues as well. But it wasn't so much the done thing. So what was the attraction of playing overseas kind of during the bulk of your career, particularly that year at Benfica?
I've always wanted to play abroad. I think, when I was a kid and I saw the World Cup in 78, and then when I saw the Brazil team in 1982, that was, I kind of, I was always a Brazil fan. And I always, for me, football and that side of it was about, it was like a story. It was like the romance. I used to see these, Socrates, there's Zico, Falcao, these players in 78. We had Kempes, Luque, and all of the, Kubias, all of these players. I kind of used to see the football in the sun. And I think that I kind of always wanted to see myself playing in those kind of full stadiums, in that kind of environment. So that was where the appeal was. And, I dreamt I wanted to, I think when I was at Sheffield United, I think Genoa came to look at me. And I'd always kind of thought, if I could get to do something a little bit different, test myself on a different stage, I could always come back to play here in England. It would just enhance my reputation. So that's why I really kind of went for it. And my experience in Portugal, by and large, was brilliant. We had a game. We played Porto, beat them 3-0 at home. We played in the Lisbon derby, beat them 4-1 away. And those were kind of things that live with me forever. Just the feeling of scoring in both of those games in front of huge crowds and the whole atmosphere. It's different to a Premier League game. It's that kind of an Englishman going abroad and conquering the situation. And you're right, we haven't had a lot of people go abroad. And I just felt it was something that would define me as being different from everybody else. You have to be kind of brave, and don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fear, I suppose, going abroad, but I had to trust myself. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, Benfica is a club where the passion is such, and you can make yourself I'm sure there are Benfica fans at that time who remember you as a legend purely for scoring against Sporting and against Porto. But I mean, you walk in through the gates and you've almost got it feels like you almost got the incentive right there with the statue of Eusebio. You can see how much it means. Do you think it made you a better player when you came back and had and the rest of your career in England?
It's a difficult one because I felt that I'd gone to another level, and then I felt that I kind of, when I came back here, I just kind of, I became that. Yeah, I don't think I transferred some of the things that I'd learned over there back here. And look, some of that is down to me. Some of that was perhaps down to the way we played, for example. I played with a lot of very good technical players out there. I could, some of them played in World Cups, and so on. Some of them went to play at, bigger clubs than Benfica as well. So, when it was about sort of like the next step. And when I came back, I just felt that, I kind of became what I needed to become back here. And that disappointed me a little bit, but it was you can't always, you're not always in control of those situations. And certainly, I went from playing one way to coming back and, all of a sudden I was up against big, strong defenders again, and I was having to adapt to playing against them. Perhaps I didn't have as much freedom to kind of run with the ball. I wasn't getting the ball as quickly as I wanted to run at people and so on. So I became more of a little bit more of a kind of traditional centre forward over here, which, again, like I said, perhaps that had something to do with my mentality. Perhaps I should have been the one to take that on. But also, it's also where, you look for opportunities to develop and for people to develop you as well.
Yeah, you were. I'm just listening through these Benfica teams. You're playing up front with Nuno Gomes, there's Karol Poborski in there, but there's also, there's a lot of British players as well. The man who I'm, as an Arsenal fan, I have to refer to as a legend, Michael Thomas, and plenty of others as well. In there with just briefly, I know we've got I've got Lucas and Alex here, but my final question on that time. Graeme Souness was a hell of a personality as a manager. It takes quite something to do what he did at Galatasaray alone. Did you? I've read a little bit about that time and about how Graeme Souness and the chairman didn't particularly get on. Did you have any sense of what was going on there?
Yeah, the chairman wasn't a very good person. It's simple. We were almost in a situation where, we were being lied to on a kind of daily and weekly basis, and Graeme was there trying to protect us. We'd gone out there, and the truth of the matter was, for a period of time, we weren't getting paid. We used to have to put up with the president, not the chairman, coming in before games and barefaced lying to us, to our faces, and then you're going out in front of 60,000 people, and if you've not scored after 15 minutes, the white handkerchiefs are coming out. So you get to a point where you're thinking, well, what am I doing here? It's like forced labour almost. Be careful how you phrase things nowadays. So yeah, forced labour.
Well, certainly unpaid labour. Football's a weird business, but you wouldn't expect any workers in any other line of work to work for free.
Understand. Yeah. Well, I think that they would always say, listen, you'll get your money at the end of the month, and you're like, well, what can I do? They've got my registration. And it was, the thing was, it's like, they acquired Michael, for example. Because I'd been there longer than Michael, and I came back before him as well. But they'd acquired Michael on a free transfer. And so you're going out there on a free transfer. You've been made all these promises, and straight away, they're not delivering. It's not fair. And then we come back to journalism. The journalists out there are getting on your backs as well. And the problem with that is that they're writing, they don't want to fall out with the people. They don't want to fall out with the club. So I'll pick on the player.